are here. We literally just did an astro. We just did a Sagittarius. We almost said September. A Sagittarius reading, and so that's up here, you guys, the next 10 days bonus. But I wanted to jump onto Astro because there is a bit of a warning here. Now, this has to do with a reptilian frequency entity. I'm hearing it can be present anywhere, anytime. What is time? You know, within any connection, any dynamic, any person. It can include spiritualists, so-called people who are so-called light workers. Very important to remember that, right? Just because someone here has a, whatever, doesn't mean that they are of the light. And that's where we have to really say, how do I feel around this person? How do they make me feel? Really what's happening here is I see, there is this sort of strange pressure point, and I do see that, at a certain, how do we say, there's a moment coming, okay, guys, with the Mars and Gemini retros, especially in Mercury in retro, there is a really awkward moment here. I keep hearing it like this coming, where I see people are going to start kind of wanting to associate with your work. Okay, some of you, this seems like a very specific message. I see there are people who want to associate with your work. I do see them, though, strangely enough, trying to associate from another vantage point. Most likely they realize that you're not going to be engaging them in the way that they had come through in the past. I feel that they will try to come through in a way that is going to shake up your expectation with them. In other words, for some of you, they may take another perspective on, okay, entirely. Maybe it's something just like you would never imagine that they would say, that they would do. Anything to kind of get you thinking about them again. I'm hearing that, but specifically to get you to even consider their so-called case. Maybe, you already said, hey, like, I'm really not interested in this dynamic. That really wasn't working for me. And I do see this person, for example, for some of you coming through, even with a criticism, okay, they may come through to try and sort of see your story from another perspective. We're going to get into a part 2. This is something controversial, I feel, for some of you. And for some of you, it's even political. I don't know why that would be what that's about. Maybe later tonight we'll get on with the charms as well. I do also want to get on weekly extended members. But yeah, guys, we'll see if Spirit wants to have that tonight. I wanted to do the members extended weekly last night. Let's clear the energy and throw a chakra. Yeah, some of you, these are family members. Bye. I feel like this is gonna just be drama. So I would recommend specifically the next few days, let the shore arrive to the wave. I hear it like this. Like, if something is really true as well, let that person show up. I feel like there's going to be a lot of very silly, okay, hearsay, so-called people just trying to sort of be important to you, is what the way I'm getting it. Like, they kind of just want you to sort of wonder as well about what's going on with them. I wouldn't give into the curiosity at this point. Most likely, if someone here is on the same wavelength as you in terms of the next step of your ascension, your activations, they're going to be right there. They're not going to be someone you have to figure out, okay, to look back and be like, is the bro, like, honest these days, with himself, ultimately, or herself, or themselves, or itself, is this something that I can work out? The answer should be pretty obvious. So if you find that someone is coming back, and with this Mercury retro that we're climbing up into with that pre-shadow already in tow, it's going to start really bringing in some people from the past with you. But is the approach right? So, guys, we're going to get into the next videos. This is primarily people who are also, they're having... if this is resonating, by the way, with you, I would definitely check out the Gemini reading, no matter what your sign is. Okay, you could have a Venus in Gemini, you could have a Mars in Gemini, you could have, all of your personal planets in the house of Gemini. You may have, Gemini sitting on an angle, your rising, your midheaven. You may have a very strong emphasis on Gemini. Your cusp house, could be at 29 degrees, 0 degrees. You'd have a freaking lot of Gemini in the birth chart accented there, especially at certain times of the year. So don't judge, let's say, by the sign, I would say. If you're feeling like this is your message, I would recommend to watch Gemini reading. Let me know if you happen to do that. Type in the comments. It's always cool. I love to, to sort of, reciprocate in that space, so to speak, to see how you guys, reflect, okay, and how it really sort of, how the messages how they resonate in that way. And rebalance out in that way is what I'm hearing as well. You know, sometimes we get certain messages from certain signs, and it really shows another angle to the karma. I'm hearing that as well. Interesting. To the interaction, I hear it like this. Let's clear it on the right side of the body and the sacral of the root. It adds clarity to the connection as well, because ultimately we are not just one sign, right? So watching different signs will sort of lend this sort of multifaceted sort of answer, okay, an insight to the answer, really, right? So I would recommend to watch specifically, you know, other signs. In this case, in particular, with this particular message, Gemini and Sag, because some people here, you know, you're working with a very particular storyline, and it is a bit awkward, because I feel like you have someone here returning, but they're not really even really ready for you. And it's important for you to realize, you know, is this drama, or is this someone with a real ass drum roll, and they're ready to really be vulnerable, they're really ready to show up. It may be a false alarm, guys, for some of you. And in that Gemini reading, we pulled a full yearly spread on that energy, because it seemed pretty particular. Let's back it up. It seemed very pretty pivotal to the rest of the connection, and sort of telling people like what your standard is, right? Like, okay, you returning is not the point. You got to return within a certain, you know, also period of time. Like, someone's rolling back through from like 8 years ago. It's like we gotta know, you know, not just like why, but like why do they think that they're entitled to returning with, also for some of you, no real change. And that was yet again that, some of you, you know, these are people I'm hearing, even relatives. It's like, why do you suddenly want to be from me? What? Like, back there you were so invested in the drama, and now suddenly you're like, peace, why? I wonder. It's like, you want a piece of something I'm working on these days? Like, something like that, guys. And we have to, no. And I think you're not going to be that same nice guy, nice girl, nice person, okay? Because that, for some of you, for many of you, yeah, really, people took advantage. And for some, you know, they took it where they wanted to take it. Like, not that they disrespected you. For you, they actually respected you. Why otherwise would somebody use somebody, right? Okay, so-called use somebody. But you felt like they were kind of taking you, stringing you along, taking advantage of your time, your energy. For some of you, it's like, no, like they really respected you, but they didn't really, also for some of you, they were not ready to show you that. So they kind of, in a sense, we'll say, strung you along, okay? Kept you on this path of like, sort of, not really, how do we say, they wanted to put you on hold for some of you is what I'm getting. So now is the time I'm getting to sort of acknowledge that the way that maybe this person wants to love you is not right yet, is not right anymore, maybe, okay? For some of you, really change. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't play games. I hear it like that. I don't play games with my own heart. I gotta look out for my own heart, apparently, because you're not looking out for it. I hear it like this. So the name Hugh, it autocorrected from high. And in other words, yeah, so the reptilians are getting pretty, I'm hearing, desperate, okay? Not only, but lonely. They're feeling very, very awkward, but I just don't get that this frequency is, fully been illuminated for those of you who are especially in twin flame unions where there is a very heavy karmic third-party interference. I am hearing preference. Maybe someone here hasn't fully, you know, they're not really, they still have something, they have to clarify something. I hear that as well, and they better come through with that, or there is no future for some of you. I feel like that's maybe something you're going to tell them. And again, it doesn't have to be, I'm hearing for some of you heavy that this is family. It's or maybe a relative of yours. There's something that is not realistic possibly to you. And it is, for example, like maybe someone here, you know, it's like they're coming in with some sort of BS excuse, like, oh, I really like you, like, trust me. It's like, trust you on what? Like, you're not even telling, like, your family that we're a thing. I hear, like, this, I don't know what that means. This may be a very critical message, like, maybe there is a factor of honesty here. And, you know, you're like, listen, you have to prove it now. It's not enough to say it. Maybe we could have said it way back when. This sounds exact, verbatim, the Gemini reading. Hear that out there. So, yeah, and maybe there are some transits here. We did have Mars transits just recently. I'm seeing the number 8, something about Pluto. Some of what we're talking about now, maybe due to the fact that we're about to have Mars and Pluto both retro. October may get kind of fucking weird. September, October. as we move into, the season of Scorpio and having Mars retro, the part of, co-ruler of Scorpio, and Pluto, the secondary ruler as well of Scorpio, both retro. We'll get into that in a separate, but and Mercury retro, oh man, with practically every other planet. We have Neptune retro, Jupiter retro, Saturn, Uranus just went retro, and I do count pre and post shadow. So we got a lot here that, people want to, sort of, I get it again, like, they want to convince you that it's time. I don't know even what that means. What does that mean? It's like, it's time, but like, I feel they're still taking a back door. So we'll see in the next videos, guys. Keep an open mind when it comes to your conversation. I hear that as well. Maybe there's something that you really want to stand for, and it is a matter of how you focus on that intention and on that vision. And sometimes we think, well, maybe we could have done it together. Maybe you got to do it first on your own. Maybe you got to really stand for it by doing it on your own. Maybe you got to really stand in that space and not waver and not see, do you catch up? Do you really want it? And not to base it on that person. Maybe you need to create that space for yourself first. I don't know what that means for, again, maybe there's even something that you need to clear and say, we're not going to have that conversation. Maybe this is even something that was very challenging because, you did hope at a certain point, you thought maybe even that you needed this person, and that is a karmic energy. Some of you, you're moving beyond the status quo of what's controversial for this individual. We'll see in the next videos, and I'm here. You don't need to bow down to this person, which I'm hearing. I don't know. Some of you, this is, again, a very intense karmic, let's